That's good. Good evening, everyone. Today is June 30th, and we're here for a special meeting for special business to determine whom we want to place in our vacant city council role. I would like to call this meeting to order. We're going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Michelle, may we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Anderson.
Here.
Mayor Milan. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Moffitt.
Present.
And Councilmember Shepherd.
Here.
Thank you. We are all present and accounted for. And first of all, I would like to thank all four of you. We have tonight Alexandra Prilly, Andrea Land, Lauren Matar, and Richard Scott. We're really grateful that each of you are interested in filling the void we have on our city council right now. And we thank you for coming, submitting all of your documentation and coming here this evening. We look forward to having conversations with each of you. Before we do that, we wanted to make sure that everyone understands what the charter says for the qualifications. And I'm just going to read section 4-4.31. Defaulters not qualified to hold office. No person who has been convicted of theft, misuse, or misappropriation of public funds, or who is in default to the city or to any other governmental subdivision of the state of Michigan, or who has been convicted of a felony shall be elected or appointed to any office of the city. All votes for or any appointment of such person shall be void. So that was just a stickler that we had in our information for this, and I just wanted to make sure that was public for everyone. And then, Michelle, you have devised an order for us this evening, so I guess we can begin with our first candidate interview for Alexandra Prilly.
Madam Mayor, do we want to have the other three go to the conference room?
If they're willing, yes. So we had asked that if people were willing to sequester while someone was interviewing, that they do so as to not make anyone uncomfortable and also to not give any unfair advantage for questions and answers and such. So thank you for all of you. Enjoy your little break. So we have before us, the council has before us a set of questions. And I think it might behoove us we have 5 sections. And if we could maybe each take a section and then divvy up the end version, that might be a good way to go. So who would like to start with the questioning? Anybody
Madam Mayor,
want to
if
start?
I may?
You want to start? Okay, so then let's just go in order.
Yep.
And then, so you'll have personal background and motivation. Councilmember Anderson, you'll have knowledge of the community and local issues. I'll do governance and decision-making. Ms. Moffitt can have ethics, commitment, and availability. And the last two, whoever's like really energetic can ask those questions. Does that sound fair? Good? Okay, Alex, how would you like us to refer to you?
Alex is fine.
Welcome, Alex. Please,
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. So I don't know if you want to just start with questioning or how you want to move forward with this. I can give you a little background, or if you want to just jump right in. It's up to you guys.
Madam Mayor, is there an opinion regarding how they should proceed, or just go directly in the question?
I think the first question is probably exactly where they will start.
Sounds like a plan.
So we'll start with that.
Okay.
And in the end, we'll give you an opportunity to state any information that perhaps was not addressed under the questioning that you feel is valid and you would want us to know.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right.
Excellent.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Prilly, can you briefly introduce yourself and explain why you are interested in serving on the city council?
Sure. So, like you know, my name is Alex Prilly. I was born and raised right here in Michigan. I grew up in Shelby Township. About a little over 8.5 years ago, I moved to Clawson. And one of the reasons that I moved to Clawson was, one, to get out of my parents' home, but 2, because I was looking for a small community that was still located pretty urban. We were actually discussing in the conference room back there, nice thing about Clawson is it's 20 minutes from everything, but it still has that great small town community vibe. I lived in Washington, D.C. for a year, and everything was walkable there. And so when I was looking for somewhere to live, I needed one of the things on my list was walkability and access to services, access to restaurants, access to things that I really appreciated having in Washington, D.C., but not in the big city. The big city wasn't for me. Small town is much more my vibe. And so Clawson kind of fit perfectly for when I wanted to find somewhere to live. Before that, I attended Michigan State University. I'm a Spartan, go green. All right. Always good to have a fellow Spartan on in the interview. Before that, I attended Notre Dame Prep High School over in Pontiac. And like I said, I've been in this area my entire life, save for 1 year in Washington, D.C. But like I said, that big city living was not quite for me. And I'm really glad that after that, I was able to find something as great as Clawson. For the last 10 years, I've served in the public sector. I started off working as a staff assistant for a member of Congress. And from there, I kind of have moved up the ladder to different positions, 3 different members of Congress that I've served under. So I've got a kind of a breadth of experience of different personalities, but also interacting with constituents and interacting with public officials, which I think really sets me up perfectly for a role like this. Most recently, I currently work for the Congresswoman who serves Michigan's 9th Congressional District, which is the thumb of Michigan, more or less, Northern Oakland County and the thumb. So you get all sorts, which has really also kind of prepared me for a public role like this one. And then moving forward, I really hope that if you guys pick me, I'll be a really great advocate for both the city and for the people in the city, and then represent it proudly and become a more active member of the community than I already am. I serve currently on the Parks and Rec Board for the city of Clawson. I've been doing that for a little over a year now. Or I was appointed, I guess, a little over a year now, but the board kind of started meeting about a year or so ago after a little bit of a hiatus. So I'm proud and glad to be on that board and hopefully helping make Clawson Parks and Recreation a little bit of a better service and a better, a little more visible for the people in the city. Other than that, I don't really have anything. If there's any other questions or background.
Let me dovetail on that. So
Yeah.
you gave a little bit about your professional experience. So what other personal or civic experiences have best prepared you for council?
Sure. So, like I said, currently serving on the Parks and Rec Board. So that was kind of my way to really start getting more involved here in the city. Throughout my entire pretty much working career, an aspect of my public sector work has been working in communities. So I've always kind of been a front-facing person in a congressional office. So whether it's fairs, festivals, community service, community outreach, things like going to senior centers, things like serving Meals on Wheels or things like that where, they're not necessarily the largest or most glamorous things that you can do to help your community, but it's all stuff that I've been part of over my last 10 years really in public service. I think really the thing that has put me in the best position to be active in my community is my public sector work. Every day I'm dealing with phone calls, with emails, with people who have questions, concerns, problems, who just need assistance with something, whether that be figuring out how to get some service like pay an electric bill, pay a water bill, or something as intense as like an IRS audit. Runs the gambit, but that's really kind of how I've been able to interact with people in the community and learn how to interact with people in the community. Early on, when I came into public service, I didn't quite know what to expect, and over 10 years, I've kind of learned what the biggest thing that really, I think, puts me in a great position for the board would be my understanding of how people interact with public officials. Not too many people like to go to their government when they're having a great time. They usually go there because they're upset about something, they want to change something. There's something that needs to be adjusted in their opinion. And knowing how to navigate those waters, I think, is something that will position me, and something I've been doing for the last 10 years in public, in the communities that I work with. And I really think that just being able to understand that kind of interaction is something that a lot of people might not quite understand if they haven't been in public life and they haven't been in their community and understand that the kind of back and forth that you get between communities, people, and the elected officials or the public officials.
So you mentioned again that you were on the Parks and Rec. If you could expand on that and what your experience on Park and Rec, and if you had any positive or negative experiences.
Sure. Yeah, so actually, we just held a Parks and Rec meeting a week or so ago, I want to say it was. Really kind of the goal right now is to really nail down what we want to make the priority for the Parks and Rec department moving forward over the next year, 2 years, and where we can learn more about what our priorities may be able to, our goals may be able to be accomplished in the next year or so. And that's really something that I've taken to heart, in that I want to see the Parks and Rec department become more active and become more front-facing. One of the examples I always like to talk about on the board is, until about 2 years ago, I didn't even know that there was a there was a recreation center, because it's so kind of removed from where I live on the other side of Main Street. And so moving forward, one of the things we're looking at potentially doing with the Parks and Rec Board is seeing what a new rec center may look like, or seeing where, if we moved a rec center, what may that look like? How could that impact people if we had more visibility? How many people actually know there's a rec center and what services it provides? So that's all stuff that I've really kind of been focusing on since I've been on the Parks Board, is really making us a more visible part of the city. Because there's so many great services that I don't think a lot of people realize are available to them. And it's a shame that if we're going to provide these services or have these services, that people aren't going to take advantage of them. So moving forward, I'd really love to see that kind of an expansion of more knowledge and more understanding of, these are things that the city's providing, or these are things you have access to that, maybe, or maybe there are new things that we could provide, and new activities or new recreation offers. But again, that's stuff that the board is kind of looking at over the next year to determine, where's the money going to be best spent, and how can we allocate our resources and time to figure out what will be the best for a lot of the people in the community, including a survey that was sent out a couple months ago, I want to say about 4 months ago or so, which we actually had a really good response to. Over 600 people responded to it with a list of things that they'd love to see the Parks and Rec department actually move forward with or kind of develop. Some of them are a little more far-fetched or a little maybe out of the realm of possibilities than others, but it really helped us hone in on, okay, let's take a look at 2 or 3 things that we can really focus on over this next year, and then obviously work with the city council to try and make that a reality.
Okay, those are my questions.
Okay, I have one. I mean, there's 3 questions, but I think at the rate we're going, we'll probably run out of time, so I'll try to keep it brief. What do you
I
think
can
the
shorten
top-
the answers too. Sorry if I'm going too long.
No, you're fine. You're doing well. Just kind of curious, do you have any perception of what perhaps some of the top issues in the city are that need to be addressed?
Sure. So I work for a federal public office, so obviously the federal side of things and the state and local are very different, but they also share a lot of similarities. I've worked with a number of different township supervisors and mayors and village presidents, and a lot of the issues that I hear from them, I have to imagine, are the same kind of issues that the city has: water, infrastructure, taxes, millages, services, things like that, that really impact the citizens on a day-to-day, and then also planning for the future. I can't tell you the number of townships or cities who have come to us and said, we have this great idea, but we don't have the funding for it, or we don't know how we're going to be able to pay for it. And I think that's something that, whether you're a city, a village, a township, a state, that's always going to be kind of on the forefront of everything, is how is it going to get paid for? I'm not naive enough to think that, money just falls from trees, or we can just raise taxes or a new millage and it'll be great and everyone will love it because this new service will be so amazing, or this infrastructure project has to happen. I'm a resident of Clawson myself. I don't think anyone likes to hear that there's a new tax or something's going up on the water bill or whatever it may be. And so I think that's always going to be the forefront, is how is money being raised, or how a tax is being raised or collected, and where that money is being spent. And is it being spent effectively and efficiently, and as getting the best kind of bang for the buck for the residents here in Clawson. I know that's something that I will focus on if I'm lucky enough to be on the council, because no one likes to hear their taxes are being raised or their taxes are, everyone likes to complain, but if you can at least advocate for a good reason and you can show that they're being spent wisely, I think that really is something that every city or local municipality can really benefit from.
Okay. Well, I guess, I think you pretty well answered 3 questions there, although one would be specific. Is any policies or ordinances you think should be revised? Anything burning in your mind that, this needs to change?
So I will say, I'll put it out there right now, one of the things that I would love to see, and I don't know if it's a reality or not, is standardized garbage bins for all residents. I know we have the recycling bins, which are fantastic. Coming from where I grew up in Shelby Township, we had the big standardized recycling bins, but we also had big standardized garbage bins. I remember when I first moved here and I said, well, where do I put my trash? And one of my neighbors said, well, you just put it out on the curb. And I said, in what? And they said, well, you put it in your own container or you just put the bag on the curb. And I thought, well, that's weird. Don't you usually have a standardized bin for this? And they said, you do. It's for recycling. I said, well, that's not trash. And so that would be something, it's not necessarily an ordinance, but something I'm very passionate about because, you drive up and down the streets and sometimes you see trash on the side or on the curb, or I've seen animals get into trash occasionally, which isn't great. So just putting that out there right now, that's something that I would love to see change or maybe figure out some way to make that happen. Like I said, not necessarily an ordinance, but something within the city I'd like to kind of work on if I was to sit on the board.
Okay.
Right.
Madam Mayor?
How would you approach decision-making when the public opinion is divided on a controversial idea?
Well, coming from 10 years working for members of Congress, I don't think I've ever had someone or any sort of legislation that wasn't controversial. As most people know, we're a pretty evenly split nation. Just looking at the demographics of Clawson, it's relatively evenly split along party lines here in Clawson as well. Not to say that that's something that should factor into it, but obviously people have their opinions on both sides of how money, like I said, money should be spent or taxes or where we can allocate resources. I think the biggest thing for when it comes to figuring out how to diffuse these situations is listening and understanding where everyone's coming from. For 10 years now, I've gotten calls. They're not always the people who side with what or agree with what I agree with. But the one thing I've always done and I'll continue to do is listen to what they have to say. I might not agree with it. I might vehemently disagree with it. But I'll listen because maybe they have some idea that I've never thought of. Maybe they have some sort of plan or project or way to look at something that I did not see before. And I think it's important to at least be open to those ideas. And I believe that most people, if they truly think you're receptive and at least listening and kind of taking in and absorbing their ideas, then it doesn't raise the tension. It doesn't create animosity. It creates a mutual understanding to sometimes agree to disagree. I think that's really important. I know at the federal level, we don't see that so often. Hopefully at the city level, if I'm on the board, that's something I can really bring to this community.
Thank you. How would you prepare for our council meetings to ensure that you are making informed decisions?
Sure. Well, I think the first thing is, one, I obviously would have to rely on some of you to kind of guide me as a new member of the board. Obviously, you all have experience here. But in addition to that, personal research, Google can be a great resource. Obviously, it's not the end-all, be-all, but there's a lot of great information out there. And then I think another option is working with people in the city, talking to them to understand, what this project may mean from this department. How do they see it moving forward? If DPW wants to work on a new project, go and talk to them and say, what's the project? What's the goal? What's the objective? What do you need from me as someone who would be on the council to try and either make this happen or understand what you need to make happen? So I think that's really the biggest thing is communication, understanding that I don't know everything. I'm not going to pretend to know everything. And I'm not an expert in everything. And so knowing where I know what is going on and know where I need more information and who to talk to, who to speak with, and how to better and to comprehend and take in, okay, if this is what needs to be done, what information do I need to know to have a full understanding of the issue and to comprehend it and make an informed decision? So I think between doing your own research and speaking with the actual people involved in it in the city, I think is a great combination. And then obviously making a decision based on all the information provided and figuring out, okay, maybe DPW is saying this, maybe the internet says this. Is there a middle in between? Is one more correct because they know a little more about the city than maybe Google does? Or does Google have a number that doesn't quite make sense? So go to DPW and say, is there a mix-up here? Is there a miscommunication? And then, like I said, hopefully being able to rely on the board for things like proceedings and how to go about talking with, or who in what department is the best person to speak with. Obviously, there's a learning curve, but I like to think I'm pretty astute at figuring these things out quickly, so I would hope that I wouldn't have to rely on you guys too much other than those first phone calls or those first emails.
Great, thank you.
So my category is ethics, commitment, and availability, and as fortune would have it, I came with some of my own questions, but they happen to fit in nicely. So my first question is, please describe your previous personal contact or friendships with current sitting members of council.
So as all of you know, I have not in any way interacted with this council on like a personal level in terms of ever asking for anything or actually even sitting down and saying this is, these are my plans for the city council moving forward or anything like that. There's no nefarious backdoor dealing that if I'm on the council, I'll vote for whatever you decide. I'm going to be my own person on the council. I may agree, I may disagree with some of you at certain times. But in no way has there been any sort of pre-set up or any communication about any sort of decision-making moving forward or any projects or plans or anything like that. That is not something I have done, not something I would do.
Okay. And then the other one I'm going to take from the list here is, tell me your understanding of the Open Meetings Act and your responsibilities under it.
Sure. So, I guess it's probably a little different than at the federal level. There's the, I believe it's the Bacon-Davis rules, which are essentially the rules that every community organization I've ever interacted with has followed. Now, obviously, a city is a little different than, say, a 501c3 or the Lions Club or something like that. But I believe, for the most part, the city requires full transparency on all city council meetings, hence the recordings. I support that as much as humanly possible. I would plan to be as open and as transparent as I could be. I have nothing to hide. I'm an open book. I tell that to my coworkers. I tell that to my boss. I tell that to the people who call me at work. And I'll tell the truth as much as I can and as often as I can. And that would be my plan moving forward. I don't want to hide anything from whether it be the city council, whether it be worker or different departments in the city, or whether it be our constituents here in Clawson.
Okay. So we got another category. We're going to circle around, or are we going to wrap it up?
You can continue if you'd like.
Oh, well, okay, the next category is vision and representation. And how do you plan to, I like this. How do you plan to represent all the interests of residents, including those who may not share your views? You kind of answered that already.
Sure.
So let's couple that with, what are your goals and what do you hope to accomplish during your tiny little term here?
Yeah. Well, yeah, we kind of already touched on the first part, so I'll just kind of skip to the goals, which I kind of brought up one goal already. But honestly, my goal moving forward would be to try and represent the people of Clawson as best as I can, and try to, I guess, make Clawson the community I would love to see it to be. I think Clawson is positioned currently with a great opportunity to be. It's already an up-and-coming city. I see it all the time now when you drive through Main Street. People walking up and down the streets. People want to go to some of the restaurants or the shops or the things that are available. And I really think that Clawson's positioned right now to really knock it out of the park in the next couple of years to be, not necessarily the downtown Royal Oak. We're not that big of a city, but an option for people who maybe don't want to go to Royal Oak or don't want to go to Birmingham or whatever it may be. Still have that small town feel, but with a lot of different amenities, restaurants, stores, and things like that. I see there's development happening all the time right now. We've got the Clawsonian from just opened a couple of years ago. We've got some new apartments coming in on Main Street. We've got some more housing coming in on 14 Mile. And I think if we really grab the opportunity right now, Clawson could be a secret little gem that turns into a known gem around the communities in this area, in the metro area. So that's what I would love to see moving forward, is really investing in the downtown, investing in our parks, and investing in making people want to come here and stay here.
Great. Do you guys have any other questions? Given your personal, what do you have? Do you have anything else you'd like to share with us that we didn't address in the question?
I just want to, again, thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to speak. I know I've not been here as long as some people have. Like I said, I'm going on 8.5 years. But I've been in public service now for over 10 years, and I think I would be a great addition to the board. I appreciate you guys considering me for this position. And if I am fortunate enough to sit on the board, obviously it's not the longest of terms, but I plan to be as fully invested and fully present as possible. So I just want to thank you guys again. If there are any questions or anything that comes up after this, please feel free to reach out to me. Like I said, I'm an open book. You have my contact numbers and my email or whatever it may be. I'm happy to answer if there's any follow-up questions or anything that I didn't cover that you have concerns or questions about. And I just thank you again. I appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate your being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Would you guys like me to go grab the next? Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Are you comfortable following along the same?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I may not ask a question exactly as written, but.
If I may, I just
21
obviously,
minutes.
we've got, some of the questions dovetail into what they're
Yeah.
already
Yeah,
said,
of
so
course.
Exactly.
that's kind of where.
No, I'm just for your awareness, that took 21 minutes. So,
Right on time.
Wait,
well, I think the
We
intent is to
started
give
late.
everyone 30 minutes, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
We started late, so.
Pardon me?
We started late.
Yeah,
so-
no, and that's what
So,
I marked the time.
So the point is, if we want follow-up questions, we have room for it in the 30 minutes.
it sounds like, yeah.
Oh, breaking rules already, man.
See, it feels like I fit right in. Stand here.
Yes, please. How are you this evening?
I am well. How are you guys?
Great.
Am I allowed
Thank
to
you for
shake
joining.
hands?
Of course.
I'm sure.
Hi,
Nice to meet you.
thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Just felt wrong.
Okay. Well, we'd like to thank you for coming in. We have some questions we're going to ask everyone the same questions.
Sure.
We're going to follow the same format we just did, and we plan on following it throughout, so.
Very cool.
Very good. Should we state her name or have her
Yeah.
state her?
Andrea Land. Am I supposed to say something else about me, or are we good?
No, just so everybody listening
Stand
knows.
there,
Hi,
just
Andrea.
stand there questioning.
That's awesome.
You're good.
We don't want you to be anonymous.
Or awkward, yeah.
Too late.
Yeah.
All right, well, let me get started with our bank of questions. This is regarding personal background and motivation.
Sure.
First question, can you briefly introduce yourself and explain why you're interested in serving on city council?
Sure. Like I said earlier, my name is Andrea Land. I've lived in Clawson for 18 years, I believe. Grew up in the Port Huron area. Went to school, Port Huron Northern, went to college, Kalamazoo College. Studied overseas in Russia. Came back with little direction, as most 20-somethings do. Ended up working with my mom, and then getting into the construction industry, and then working with labor for a while, and falling out there, and now working in the automotive industry. Along the way, I was appointed to the Road Commission for Oakland County, first female road commissioner in Oakland County's history, and I spent 4 years as the chair of the Road Commission. That appointment ended in January, and I think when the opportunity came up here, it was an opportunity for me to kind of reconnect with the community. I felt kind of disassociated a little since leaving, working with the county. And And it just seemed like an opportunity to kind of get re-engaged. So motivation, I don't really have a motivation. I think that can be a good thing because there's no agenda and there's no expectation. It's just about giving what I can in an area where there may be need. So,
So you mentioned or your position with the road commission.
Yes, sir.
So as far as using that, or you can use another example, how did that best prepare you for this role?
well, I think kind of similarly, I mean, in all actuality, I have no municipal government experience. But when I walked into the road commission, I did not have any county experience as well. What I did have was the willingness to adapt, to learn, and to be open with the individuals that were there training me and working alongside me. And when I first walked into the road commission, I was in my mid-40s and coming in with a group and from one political party, if you want to. There's no partisanship in the road commission, but at the end of the day, there shouldn't be, and it was never an intent to bring in. But at the end of the day, you have a county commission that appoints, so there is, to some degree, partisanship. But I came in from a party that was different from the two individuals that were currently serving, and they were considerably older in age. They were a different demographic, and I thought, oh my God, how is this going to work? And we were a little cautious of each other at first. And when I left my former employee, the original commissioner that I worked with was my reference. We still talk now. We learned from each other. We grew a mutual respect for what each person brought to the table. And so I think that's what I bring, is that experience of the unknowing but the willingness. Yeah, I guess that's it. This feels really weird, I'm sorry.
You're fine. Okay, so as far as the, were there any other public boards or commissions that you've worked on?
There's, unfortunately, no. I had put in an application here when I was on the road commission to serve on the traffic and safety board, but somehow the position disappeared in some sort of, I don't know what the hell happened, partisanship here. And that went away. And at that point, I kind of was like a little disillusioned and walked away. I thought I just wanted to donate my time. And
When was that, if you don't mind me asking?
4 years ago, maybe. I guess there was a resignation, and then when my name was brought up, it was challenged that the position didn't actually exist, and then it disappeared.
Okay.
So that was a weird situation.
That's the extent of my questions. Thank you.
Okay, I got to go off script for a moment here.
Uh-oh.
I'm sorry, I just got to understand this. You've got a degree in theater arts.
I do.
And
Can't you tell?
and there were a lot of steps in your journey, including Russia.
Yes.
So you've had a lot of experience. How did that land you in the Oakland County Road Commission?
In fairness, I was a DEI hire. They had a concept of they wanted to have the board reflect the community, and at that point there hadn't been. So they wanted a female presence on the board. They wanted somebody who was from more of the urban area. I checked a box, and at the time I was working at the International Union of Operating Engineers, and one of the county commissioners had worked there and suggested me. My father had been a road commissioner in St. Clair County, still is, for over 20 years. And I called my dad and I said, do you think I can handle this? He says, you got this. And I said, all right. And I met with the county commission and had a unanimous appointment. So, I mean, I hate to call it that, but it was, and it was a good example because I think I did a really good job while I was there.
Good, all right. Well, hopefully that background would serve you well. You know, we recently passed a bond millage for infrastructure here.
I saw that. Congratulations.
And so hopefully your knowledge and expertise will, of course, we don't run the city, we don't run the infrastructure program, but we oversee it.
Sure.
I like to tell people that we don't run the city, we're an oversight committee.
Just like the road commission
Yeah,
was.
we just oversee the administration, what they do, provide advice, provide some guidance. The bottom line, let them do their jobs, or rein them in when they're not doing their jobs. Okay.
Fair.
All right. Well, all right, I guess one of the questions, what do you think are some of the top issues facing the city that we should address?
Well, I think you mentioned one of the biggest ones, which was failure in infrastructure spending for a very long time. I hate to keep going back to the road commission, but honestly, it's the best experience that I have to articulate here. I had been recently appointed, and the mayor at the time, former mayor, had called together a group of individuals to discuss the infrastructure needs here. And it was a very expansive overview of the needs, both sewer, water, roads. And there was kind of a discussion about maybe taking the roads back to gravel. And it was one of the most ridiculous things that I had ever heard in my life. And I was just like, oh, okay. But it's a conversation, and it started a conversation. So now you guys have gotten to the point where you are seeing infrastructure money come in, and that's absolutely fabulous. It's just keeping it focused. And I wish it could have been more. I would have supported more. I would have advocated for far more, but it's something. And honestly, I think that is one of your biggest challenges, because without the infrastructure, you don't bring in the business. And without the business, you don't get the revenues, and then you don't move forward.
Exactly. Although actually, that almost kind of segues into the next question.
Oh my God, it's like I've seen them.
How do you propose to balance economic development with neighborhood preservation? Because I might add, the infrastructure in the business community has been in pretty good shape the whole time.
Sure.
Most of the infrastructure that's being addressed is residential.
Correct.
So all that has to be balanced out. I
Sure.
guess, how do you see that?
Well, I think, to some degree, your economic infrastructure comes from dollars being spent by your community. And if you can't draw people into your community to live and work here, you don't get them to spend money downtown either. And I think it's very reflective. When we first moved here, Clawson was just about to redo 14. But when we first came in and were looking at houses, I was terrified. I was like, I don't want to live I don't know if I want to live here, because everything in the subdivision that I was in was crumbling. And parts of it still are, but there have been some massive improvements on Selfridge and the split. Now I'm nervous and I can't remember the name, where Selfridge splits and Phillips, that area. That was horrible, absolutely horrible. But I think if you get your community engaged in that, it gets them engaged in every part of your community, including your economic development. I don't know, it's a huge image thing. It is a huge image thing. You want businesses to come in, you want them to think that you have a city that you take care of.
And might I add, no need to be nervous.
I don't know, it's really stupid. I don't know why. I'm a grown woman.
Madam, it's half theater anyway.
It truly is. Thank you.
All right. Well, I guess one other question is there any policy or ordinance or something you'd like to see changed?
Honestly, one of the other things that had really come to light for me, just as it's like, you're right, you guys are an oversight board, right? Oversight council. And you bring different perspective to help guide the city. But most people don't care about the broader picture. They care about what makes their lives better. And it's something just as stupid as, I have a neighbor who keeps burning things illegally. Why does he still have a permit? So I would love to look at the burning permit policies, because it affects my life. And it's something so simple and stupid and minute as that, but that's what people care about. There are broader things that may be important to the city as a whole, but people aren't looking at the broader thing. They're looking at, how do you enhance their lives? And that's what they see the value, I think, in the city council.
Okay. Madam Mayor?
Great job. How would you approach decision-making when the public opinion is divided on a controversial issue? Not that happens here.
Well, we had similar, again, I'm going to go back to the road commission, but similar things when we would have special assessment districts. And the special assessment district would be the repaving of a subdivision at the cost to the residents. And you may have, all it takes is 51%, and then the 49 who don't want it and claim they can't afford it are now stuck with. And so it becomes a balance game of giving the community what they need. And sometimes it's just listening to the issue and then trying to relate. And then trying to have that community that may be in opposition understand the necessity. And that's what we had to do sometimes with special assessments. We've had some very large special assessment districts that were on the backs of homeowners, $18,000. And that's a big ask, especially now, right? But it was in recognizing their commitment to their own community and understanding the benefit to everybody in their community and being part of that community. I look at it in the same regard of every time there's a school board millage. I'm always voting, for the school board. I don't have kids, never gonna have kids. But it's important to me that the people who do have kids have an opportunity. So I will always support, whether it's in my best interest or not, the best interest of the community.
Great. And how would you prepare for council meetings and ensure that you are making informed decisions?
Oh, first off, whoever runs your website is fantastic.
Oh.
Because, is that under your purview?
It's Brandon Birch.
Okay, it's fantastic because I was like, I should go read some stuff, look at the budget, that kind of stuff. It was so easy to get exactly where I needed, to see the information. It's very transparent, everything is there, and I thought that was fantastic. So I guess in the same way that I was always preparing for the public meetings that I had, it's, understanding the material, speaking with department heads or city manager, if that be the case or the desired route. So you fully understand. So it's one thing to see something on paper, but it's another thing to understand the mechanics that got it there. You can always bring your life experiences to the table, but, you guys, no disrespect, come in here twice a month and you don't work it every single day in and day out. And that's how I always approach things with the road commission. I come in, I make decisions, but these are the people who have to pick up the pieces and run with it. So it's important to me to make connection with those people so I understand the needs, what drew it there in the first place, and then make an informed decision that way.
Great, thank you.
All right, so ethics, commitment, and availability is my category. I'm going to start off by saying I remember that meeting. That was the last meeting before COVID.
Okay.
Anyhow, my question is, please describe your previous personal contact/friendship with current sitting members of council, if any.
The only person I know is Mayor Milan, and it is from 20-some years ago. I worked for Midwest Steel, and Mayor Milan worked for Garland Associates, and I was an admin in the estimating department, and Gala was an architectural firm that Midwest Steel used. I mean, it was conversational. I've never hung out with Paula or anything like that, but I will.
Well, you'd want to.
I do. I'm going to drag her to a Zumba class. I am. You wait. I'll take pictures. But yeah, so I mean, honestly, I don't know anybody else here. Okay. I think I sent you a nasty email 20 years ago. I hope you don't remember that.
As long as it wasn't about me.
And tell me about your knowledge and understanding of the Michigan Open Meetings Act and your responsibilities under it.
Fully aware. The Road Commission was a 3-member board. We could not discuss anything. And I thought, honestly, that was fantastic because there was no opportunity for us to do anything outside of public. It keeps transparency, kind of like this whole interview process, even though it's weird as hell. It's open, and there's no behind the scenes. Everything is transparent, and the public is aware and informed just like you are.
Excellent. I'll go ahead and again take the second, or the next category, which is vision and representation. How do you plan to represent the interest of all residents, including those who may not share your views?
In the same way that I did with the Road Commission, I think if you come in here with a concept of, I'm going to get this done and I'm going to whatever, and you have your mindset, then you don't belong here. I think that it's about learning what each group is coming to the table with, and listening and adapting. I think anybody who is just so set in their ways shouldn't be in public office, because it's that dialogue. It's going back to me working with Commissioner Jamie and Commissioner Folks, who are wildly different people. But I learned so much from them, and they learned so much from me, because we were all willing to come to the table with our own experiences and discuss issues. And there were times when there would be something that we didn't agree on, but out of solidarity, I would support, so the board moved ahead, and the entire group, the entire agency felt like they had solid leadership. So,
Can I toggle off of that?
Sure.
And keeping in mind that there's just a couple months here that
I know.
this role is
How much
gonna-
damage could I do in 5 months, really?
That wasn't where I was going, so how do you plan to approach what you just said, given the very short term?
Well, honestly, I would just have to lean on the knowledge base for direction. I mean, honestly, and I think anybody coming into this who hadn't already sat in this position would be in the same position that I was. It's just if you're coming in willing to dedicate the time, willing to invest, and willing to cooperate, I think that, we're all going to be in the same boat, because it is such a limited time.
And then the next question is sort of asked before, but I'm thinking this is a bigger picture. That might have been a micro view. This is a macro view. What specific goals would you hope to accomplish during your term?
Well, like I said, it's like
Aside from the burn permit.
it's 5 months, so I don't really know that there's any macro agenda. Like I said, coming in, I just want my whole existence, and it doesn't show on paper because you're like, it's really weird that you have a theater major and you went to Russia, and then why are you on the road commission and stuff. Everything that I've ever done in my work career has been some level of service, right? I've been at this point, I don't want to call it a glorified executive assistant, but I am. I'm an executive assistant to a C-suite group of executives, and my job is to take care of them, right? And everything that I've done along the way has been in an effort to take care of other people. I love to help people. And if filling that spot and giving somebody a voice is my opportunity to help people here, then that's how I extend into this. I may not have some glorious resume of, CEO status, whatever, but I come from a good place without intention and just a desire to help.
Great.
Does anyone have any other questions? Andrew, is there anything you would like to share that we didn't ask you already?
I don't think there's anything necessarily that I like to share. I mean, if it's not evident already, bring humor with me wherever I go, because I think it can really diffuse tensions at time. And I think that there just needs to be a lot more positivity in the world. There's a lot of chaos in the world right now on a global scale, on a national scale. And if you can bring some lighthearted, community-building kind of activity, then why not? So that's what I come with. But can I ask a question of you guys? Is that allowed? What drives you?
What drives me? I think I like what you said about service. This role is service to the community, so providing the service.
It's to all of you, so you're up.
I like to make people laugh. No, it is about service, but it's about also providing service with a positive, optimistic viewpoint. And I like to try and find ways to kind of bridge sides and kind of be a peacemaker in the midst of crazy. I find that as a challenge, but I also find it really rewarding. But it's also the really little things, like being someplace and a little girl I made a bracelet with comes running up to me and remembered me. Like, it's this,
cool.
But it's all of the other things too. It's the community portion of it, because you nailed it when you said people really are concerned about the things that affect them on a day-to-day basis. That is what fuels people. And I think we have the horrible place that we can sit and listen to people, and we can be upset with them, we can be sad with them, we can be all of these things, but we don't have the ultimate ability to change anything, which is the toughest thing to tell people. Like, we really personally can't fix that, but we do have an opportunity to try and work with others to accomplish something. So really long answer, sorry, but it's all of those things together, and it's just the ability to do good.
Well, since you're asking, I guess my life story is bringing order out of chaos.
Sure.
And the reason I joined this is things are a little chaotic and I wanted to bring some order to it. I think in the last 3.5 years, we've been able to do that. I think the city administration has brought some good order. And at this point, I just want to maintain that order.
Sure.
Because, and I totally agree with your emphasis on humor. I think there's always disagreements, but you should not let disagreements turn into disrespect.
Absolutely.
And if you use humor, sometimes can defuse the situation.
Yeah.
So that's what motivates me.
No, that's super cool.
I was going to go into a long diatribe.
You should.
Long diatribe regarding Tocqueville, but that's, don't have enough time for that. Making a change in your community starts at the local level.
Absolutely.
And a lot of it has to do with how we got here in the first place. So I try and keep in perspective what the legacy was of the people who served here before and the people who have lived here before, what their vision was, and have we tried to maintain that, what their experiences were, and make it a positive movement into the future. Because at some point in time, I want my kids to have that legacy of this is what happened when we lived here, and this is what it's become.
Yeah.
So that's my motivation.
That's fantastic. I appreciate you guys indulging me on that.
We appreciate
for
your being
asking.
here today. Yep, thank you so
All
much.
right, you guys have a wonderful evening.
You too. Does anyone want a brief break while she's grabbing someone?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah?
Just a brief one.
Like 5 minutes?
5 minutes, yeah,
5
sounds good.
minutes? Okay. We'll be back at 8:01. Okay. Okay, next up, we have Lauren Matar. Lauren, we're going to ask you the same questions we've asked of everyone else. We've kind of got a little order here.
Okay.
We're going to start with Councilmember Shepherd. Here's the first questions for you.
Thank you for being here. And how do you pronounce your last name?
Matar.
Matar.
Yep.
All right.
Kind of rhymes with guitar.
Okay, there
Yeah.
we go. All right, first questions are regarding personal background and motivation.
Okay.
Can you briefly introduce yourself and explain why you're interested in serving on city council?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Lauren Matar, Clawson resident of about 6.5 years now. And I am here tonight and interviewing for this position because I love Clawson and am motivated to get involved in the community and help continue to make Clawson a better place. I have a background in engineering, but for the past 3.5 years or so have worked in nonprofit at a company that's trying to help accelerate cleaner, smarter, more connected technologies for communities and cities. And a majority of that work focuses in Michigan. So I have some experience working in various communities in Michigan with community engagement, understanding what the community need is, and then helping to find solutions for that community need. And I've been doing that at the state level in various different cities throughout the state and communities throughout the state, and realized I should also bring that to home where I live, right? And so that is what is motivating me to join the city council.
Okay. So you mentioned nonprofits. So dovetailing onto that, do you have personal experience, professional experiences that have best prepared you for joining us on council?
Yeah, I would say a lot of the work at the nonprofit has been the most relevant to this, right? I will admit, I obviously am not coming from a big political background, right? And I have not really been super big name here in Clawson, but I thought that this was a good opportunity to get involved, right, when I saw the opening. In the nonprofit world, we do, and specifically with my organization, like I said, we're trying to find these solutions for communities. And so we've done, like, I'll talk about a very specific project we did in Dearborn, where we had grant funding from the state to invest in smart city technology, which is very broad. And our idea was, hey, we don't want to come in and just prescribe, here's all this cool smart technology for your community, Dearborn. We spent a lot of time intentionally engaging with both the citizens of Dearborn and the government of Dearborn to understand, like, what is something that you need in your community that could fall under smart cities, right? That would help you out. So Dearborn, kind of like Clawson, has a flooding problem, right? And so in Dearborn, they flood all the time. And in Dearborn, a lot of those families are multi-generational families in a home, and they live in the basement, right? So they need to know for sure if it's going to flood, if there's people living in their basements. And they also have an air quality problem. So our solutions that we came up with were really community-based solutions. And then we found technologies that match that, and we're able to put in some, like, water sensors that gave the DPW of Dearborn insight into water levels and projections on water levels so that they could plan appropriately and make sure that their safety equipment and their rescue equipment was on higher grounds, et cetera, and knew what roads to avoid for flooding and all of that. Very interesting. And then also did some air quality monitors. And another interesting thing about the Dearborn community, which is important for community engagement, is primary language is Arabic. And so all of the work that we did had to be both in English and then have an Arabic either translation or just a visual cue or something. So meeting the community where they are. And I think that type of experience has led to being able to succeed on a city council kind of level where you need to take into consideration the needs of the community.
Okay, just if I may.
Yep.
You're talking about the water sensors. I guess I'm not clear on what they were. Were they in the homes, or was this throughout the community?
No, throughout the community at,
Okay,
like,
all right.
overpasses and key areas along the Rouge River and things like that.
Oh, okay, because
Yep.
you have the floodplain from the Rouge. Okay.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I just.
Yeah, of course. Oh, yeah, I can talk about that all night, but that's not really why we're here.
So as far as Any other office, board or commission, whether or not you've served on one, what that was, and what capacity, and describe your role in those.
Yeah, no other public service at this point. So definitely, my thought here is sort of bringing that fresh approach, but I do acknowledge that that's a weakness, especially maybe compared to some of the others that are on planning commission and other commissions. So
Okay. Or an opportunity.
yeah, exactly.
We all started somewhere.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I figure. This is like the short term, right, of just a couple of months, a good like mutual test run for both myself, but then also the city to test me out, right? So it's not like an unknown name that's now getting like a 3 or 4 year appointment. It's someone who's getting a 5-month appointment, and then I can fight for something longer, right? So.
All right, that's all the questions.
Okay. Well, I guess one I'd like to ask you is what are some of the top issues facing the city that you would like to help address?
Well, I mentioned flooding, but I think that at a broader level, that is probably infrastructure. And I know that that's probably not a surprise to anyone in the room, right? Especially with the recent infrastructure bond and everything. But I think my understanding of what the community needs are and desires are is roads and then the associated flooding, which kind of go hand in hand, right? And I saw on like the last meeting and the next agenda, like there's obviously projects underway to improve the roads. So I think just continuing a lot of that work, right? And what other opportunities exist there. And then another broad one, economic development, right? What are we doing to, again, recent topic, bring in new businesses with different types of businesses to make sure the community is staying relevant. But I've also understood from the community that there's like a pretty strong desire to, Clawson is very unique and keep Clawson and don't make it Royal Oak. But how do we continue to infuse new businesses that attract more people to either visit or become residents, et cetera, into the city? Those I think would be probably 2 priorities that I would like to focus on or that I think are important.
Okay. All right, well, that's pretty much answered the questions, Madam Mayor.
Okay, the next section is regarding governance and decision-making. How would you approach decision-making when the public opinion is divided on a controversial issue?
Ooh, love that. I'm sure that happens a lot, right? And so I think part of the interesting part of my background is, yes, I've done a lot of community engagement and other things recently, but I have an engineering degree, experience in project management, program management, so I also bring like an analytical approach to things, right? And so, again, just one of the recent commission meetings where we were talking about some quotes and things. Like I was in the audience listening and thinking about what questions would I ask if I were up on the stage, and you guys asked, or on the stage, sorry, up in the front of the room. And I think you guys were asking a lot of the same questions that I was thinking, but it's like, okay, I think maybe Councilmember Anderson was like, well, this is what our charter says, so we have some things that we need to follow in our charter, right? There's some other like logic. Did we do our due diligence? Like, have we checked with other people who have used this customer, et cetera? So I would take a little bit of an analytical approach of like, okay, what are the factors at play? Cost or impact or timing or qualifications, et cetera, and kind of bring that into the decision-making process. So analytical in association with what the community wants when there's a division.
Great. And how would you prepare for these council meetings to ensure that you're making an informed decision?
Yeah, I think that making sure that, essentially you're going to have homework for every city council meeting, right? Where we know what's on the agenda, we know what topics we're going to talk about. There's an associated packet of information that comes with it, right? And there's an opportunity to also do some of that more research or digging, right? Like I could look into, hey, never heard of this contractor or whatever. Can I look them up and also see what I can find, right? But I think that just making sure that I'm familiar with what's on the agenda, what the topics are, and have done and been intentional about coming prepared with questions. And yeah, just generally like, again, sort of doing the homework to prepare for the meeting would be pretty important.
Perfect, thank you.
So my topic is ethics, commitment, and availability. My first question is, please describe your previous personal contact / friendship with current sitting members of council.
None.
You said that with such joy.
It's an opportunity, right? Exactly.
Oh, I didn't have my microphone on. So let
Okay.
me ask it
Yeah,
again.
okay, perfect.
Take two.
Yep.
Please describe your previous personal contact / friendship with current sitting members of council.
And my answer was none.
All right, well done.
But I did say that that's an opportunity. And like I said earlier in the interview process, I acknowledge and admit that this is kind of I'm a new face to this kind of involvement in the community, but wanted to take a shot at it and see what I could do to maybe bring a fresh perspective or, I don't know, just start somewhere to get involved, right? So only interaction has been sitting in the audience before and watching a couple of meetings on YouTube, so no personal relationships with the members. Yeah.
Tell me, are you aware with the Michigan Open Meetings Act and your responsibilities under it?
Yes, I think so, but happy to be corrected if I'm wrong. But all the city council meetings and the commission meetings are all open to the public, to the community of Clawson, live streamed, and people can come in the audience as well.
Okay. Then we have another topic here called vision and representation. How do you plan to represent the interests of all residents, including those who may not share your views? It was kind of answered or asked already in sort of a micro level.
Right.
Let's do a macro level of this.
Yep. I think that one thing I would love to do is, again, I am a new face, right? But I don't want to necessarily be a new face. So one thing I was thinking about of how would I engage with the community and how would I understand what the citizens want outside of maybe public comment at these meetings or maybe public comment in an email or other communication, right? I try to attend a lot of the community events, and so if there's an opportunity to do that and interact and meet with the public, I think that would be a good opportunity to understand what the needs of the community are. And then I think it is important to understand all different perspectives and truly listen to why does someone feel or believe this way, right? And accommodate that or consider that when making a decision. So I'm not trying to come in with a very clear, very specific agenda of like, this is what must happen, right? Of all the people that have applied to council and most people in Clawson, I've lived here 6.5 years, which I think is a pretty long time, but is not really relevant or not when you compare it to many other citizens of Clawson, right? So there's something to be said about the people who have lived here or are familiar with the city, have lived here way longer than I have, and have opinions, but have a lot of really informed or educated opinions or experiential opinions, right? So I think it's important to listen to all of that when trying to make a decision.
Okay, thank you. And last question is, what specific goals would you hope to accomplish during your 5-month term?
Yeah, it is a really short term, right? And so I think that, like I mentioned in the beginning, it's kind of a good sort of test run for both me to the council, but then me to the community, really. And so the idea, I mean, I would hope that most people that are applying for this would also be considering the upcoming election, right? And so how can I use this opportunity to make sure the community knows who I am, and engage with the community and generally support the activities and initiatives that are existing right now, right? You guys have been doing this for a while. Many of you have been on this for year or more, right, at this point. And so I'm not trying to come in and just bulldoze over all the work that you guys have been doing, but it's, hey, how can I support the work that's ongoing, keep things moving? Like, we need to fill the council seat for the sake of the charter and just keeping things moving forward. So how can I plug into what's already happening and then also make sure that the community knows who I am for potential future continued involvement in the city?
Thank you.
Is there anything you'd like to share with us that you didn't already address in your answers?
I I put a couple of, I'll do a little concluding statement. So thank you all for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. And thank you for I know this is not a normal meeting time for you all, so thank you all for coming off schedule. Things I think that I bring to the table, I acknowledge again, like it's a new face, but trying to bring a fresh perspective to the city. I have that experience from my nonprofit with state and federal grants that I think is hopefully important and relevant to this, along with that community engagement aspect of my job. I am passionate, I love the city, and I wrote down, lead with heart, but then I also bring an analytical mind to everything. And I truly care about the community. So those are kind of when I was thinking through, like, why would you guys want to consider me for city councilor? Those were the reasons that I listed out. So thank you all. I really appreciate your time, and thank you for the thoughtful questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Michelle, one more. Lauren, is your mother-in-law Sharon?
No. That's my other aunt-in-law. Aunt-in-law?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I only know of that sister.
yeah. So their brother is my father-in-law.
Great.
Yeah, I didn't think that counted as a
No, it
disclosure.
doesn't.
I was like,
Wasn't a gotcha, she was just
I was
making
like, wait a second.
conversation.
Sorry.
Her uncle has the same name, so I asked if she were related to my insurance provider. But yeah.
Uncle-in-law.
Uncle-in-law, sorry. Yeah, I wouldn't claim him that much either. He's actually amazing. Have a good night.
Yeah, me too.
I don't see a lot of Matar names, so.
Yeah, not a lot of Matars walking here, so. There's Tanya Anderson's walking.
Yeah, you guys are a dime a dozen.
You are.
Good evening, Mr. Scott.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
We are going to ask you the same questions we've asked the other candidates.
Great.
In the same order, in the same manner, and then in the end, we will allow you an opportunity to share information that perhaps we did not address with you during your time.
Sounds great.
Councilmember Shepherd's going to start off.
So, Mr. Scott, just the first part is regarding personal background and motivation. Can you briefly introduce yourself and explain why you're interested in serving on council?
Sure. So, Richard Scott, I'm an IT guy, though currently unemployed. And I've lived in Clawson pretty close to 30 years. Many years ago, I actually had neighbors, I'm pretty good, I have pretty good relationships with my neighbors. Many years ago, my neighbors actually asked me, told me I should run for council, I think just because of the discussions that I was having with them. And at that time, I was like, no, I don't want to do this. Years passed, and I thought, you know what? I love this place. I mean, we could have moved. Our plan was not to stay here for 30 years. Our plan was to, this is kind of a stepping stone. But honestly, I mean, we love this city. I actually have been standing here before and received awards for home beautification for our Christmas lights when we used to do that. But years passed, and knew that there was a planning position open, so I signed up, to be on planning, was selected. Thank you. And I've sat on planning for 2.5 years. And that has been incredibly interesting. Reviewing things that, I never had really thought about or looked into prior. And so this, opportunity on council came up, and I thought, you know what? Let's try council. I think council would be great, I mean, like I said, years ago, neighbors said, you should run for council. And I said, no. Now I'm saying, sure, this is an appointment. I don't have to, go out there and knock too many doors or anything like that. My neighbors, a couple of neighbors know that I'm here tonight, by the way. So that's it. It's just because I love this city.
Okay. So as far as you mentioned planning commission, in addition to that, what experiences that you have for personal or professional that best prepared you for this role? And you can expand on the planning commission if you like.
Yeah, I mean, well, on planning commission, we've reviewed all kinds of interesting items on planning commission. I mean, from, House of Barbecue, that's a challenging one. I want that place to stay there indefinitely. I love smoked food. On the other hand, you got to be thinking about the residents as well, right? So I use that as an example because people think sometimes that decisions come before you and they should be easy. No, they are not. They have to be thought through quite a bit. And there's different perspectives that may come up that you didn't even think about, all right? But all of the experiences on planning have been somewhat like that. Some of them easier than others, but there's always this push and pull, right? I feel like we're supposed to be there representing the citizenry here in Clawson, right? And you got to put yourself in the shoes of our neighbors, and try to make decisions that are in the best interest of everyone in Clawson, right? So that's planning. But prior to that, just a little bit of my background. Again, I'm an IT guy, generally. I was the director of IT at the Detroit Institute of Arts for 8 years. They had no IT department. They had 2 contractors when I took on the role of director there. And so I built an IT team at the DIA. And I could tell you horror stories. If you go to the DIA now and you can connect to Wi-Fi and walk around the DIA connected to Wi-Fi, that's because of me. Because when I got there, they had a 10, and you're hearing this correctly, 10 megabit connection for the entirety of the DIA. It could not support much. So I bring that up because, from an IT perspective, review architecture plans, find out how to run those Ethernet lines, see how you can get APs in places. It was a challenge in an old building like that. But I've been in leadership positions, and prior to that, I started out as a programmer, and prior to that, I was a custom cabinet maker. So I think all of these experiences over a long period of time put me in a position that, I've been and done a lot, been through and done a lot.
Okay. All right, and we touched on your other roles. Was there any other public office besides, or commission besides planning that you'd served on?
No.
No? Okay. Okay.
Okay, I guess one question is, what do you think are some of the top issues facing the city currently?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, we're the highest or close to the highest taxed city in Oakland County, anyway. And I think that we need to be very careful with asking our residents to spend more money. I want the city to be successful. I want, Joe to have what he needs to be able to provide the kind of services that the city needs and wants. But I think we just need to be judicious in how we use funds. So I think that's one of a big one. We have flooding issues. I mean, I could talk to you about this again. Some of this is also from planning. Parking issues. We talked about the possibility of allowing developers to have some portion of lower level parking on some of the properties that they build, because we recognize that there's parking issues. There's people parking on neighborhood streets sometimes, and that's not good for the residents. So there's various different things that are happening, but I think, infrastructure, and I know we've got work going on that. The roads need improvement. Some of the other infrastructure, I think we need to at least take a look at what we can do about some of the flooding conditions. When we went, so I know we were all in a workshop, and there was a huge deluge when we were in that workshop, and then we all drove home, right? Well, I don't know about the rest of you, but on my way home, I was afraid I wasn't going to make it because I had to drive through some water that I thought was shallow enough that I'd be okay, but I had water that came up over the top of my car, you know? And I wasn't going fast. So, I mean, there's things that we need to pay attention to, I think, in the city.
Okay. And one other question, is there any certain policy or ordinance or just thing in general you'd like to maybe see changed?
Well, short-term rentals, it's near and dear to my heart. We need to have something in place for short-term rentals because we don't want them to get out of control. You know, there's been a fair amount of complaints that I know about, even in my own neighborhood, about short-term rentals that exist currently. And again, we need to do the right thing for our neighbors, our residents, right? And make sure that while we have, you know, you could have a bad neighbor, that bad neighbor is the same person for, you know, for as long as they live next to you. It's not a transient type thing. So we need to be careful with the proliferation of short-term rentals. So that's something that's been on my mind.
All right, Madam Mayor?
Thank you. Our next section is on governance and decision-making. How would you approach decision-making when the public opinion is divided on a controversial issue?
Great question. It's tough because you have to look at both sides and try to inform yourself and put yourself in each side's shoes and think it through. That's what I would do. And at the end of the day, there's been times I've watched this council, and there have been some decisions that over the years council has made that I thought were, you know, easy decisions, but there was certainly some debate, and there were some things brought up that I wasn't thinking about, right? I had not considered. I just think that you need to consider everything to the extent that you can, and then be open-minded to potentially change your mind. And again, try to do the best you can for the residents of the city.
Thank you. And then how would you prepare for council meetings and ensure that you are making informed decisions?
Same way I do for planning. You know, we don't have a lot of time before the meeting. When we get the packet, we basically have 3 days, and you do a whole bunch of studying. So try to gather as much information as you can. Not everything is in the packet. You go outside the packet and try to do your own kind of investigation. In the case of planning, I use that as an example because, you know, I'm currently seated there. Go and drive around the location. Take a look at it. You know, so similarly with council, I mean, I'd do the same thing. I'd do whatever I could to try to inform myself as much as possible about whatever topic it may be, you know, so that I could make an informed decision about how I feel about a topic.
Great, thank you.
Okay, my first category is ethics, commitment, and availability. My first question is, describe your previous personal contact / friendship with current sitting members of council.
Okay, so say it again. Past relationships.
Describe your previous personal contact / friendship with current sitting members of council.
Well, I sat at a dinner with you, Mayor Pro Tem Moffitt, and Mayor Milan, and I believe, Mr. Anderson was there as well. I think that was a year and a half or so, 2 years ago, something like that, I don't remember. So, I mean, I call the relationship I have friendly with all of you, but casual. We don't go out, we don't do stuff together, you know what I mean? There's been conversations occasionally that I think each of us have had. You walking by my house with your dog. And, occasionally I've seen each of you in different circumstances and had conversations with you. So, I mean, I guess I would call it that, casual and friendly.
Okay. And then the next question is, how aware are you of the Open Meetings Act and your responsibilities under it?
Very familiar with the Open Meetings Act, and I know what the responsibilities are.
Can you expand on that?
Sure. So you cannot have a conversation with, to give you an example, right? You cannot have a conversation, if there were 5 of us sitting on council, 3 of us having a conversation would constitute a quorum. So anytime you have a quorum, you can't be talking about anything to do with the city at that point. That doesn't mean that you can't speak to each other, but you can't be talking about city business in that type of a situation.
Okay. Then the next category is vision and representation. How do you plan to represent the interests of all residents, including those who may not share your views? It's kind of already been asked on sort of a micro level, so if
Yeah.
you can answer this on a macro level.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the same, and I kind of answered that earlier. It's tough, right? Because we're not always going to agree on everything. But, what's important is to listen and hear, right? I don't know, you guys probably don't watch, I don't know how often you watch the planning commission meetings, but I stay reasonably quiet until I have something to say, because I want to hear what everybody else is saying. I'm just a human just like you. I can change my mind. I like hearing what other people have to say, and I may or I may not change my mind. And then I'll speak about what my thoughts are on the topic. And that's the best you can do, is hear all sides, try to take it into consideration, right? Be fair to everybody, give them a voice, and based on the input that you're getting, make a decision that's best for everyone, the best you can do.
Okay. And then the final question is, what specific goals would you hope to accomplish during your 5-month term?
Specific goals? Honestly, I don't have any specific goals other than making, informed, smart decisions for our residents while sitting on council, to try to contribute to the decisions that you folks make, right, in a positive way. Positive way meaning maybe I'm thinking of something that you haven't thought of, right? Maybe I found something that there's a piece of information that you weren't aware of or hadn't considered. I just want to bring a different voice to the table.
Okay, thank you.
If I can do that, then I'm successful.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anything that you'd like to share with us that you didn't address already in the answers to the questions that we've posed?
I don't think so. I'm just being upfront and forward with all of you. So, if you get to know me better, you'll know that I'm a pretty straight up guy. I try to be honest with everyone. I look forward to the potential of sitting up there with you. And I pledge to do a lot of diligence before every meeting that we have, so that I come to the meeting asking the right questions and trying to be informed as we try to make decisions.
Well, thank you. We appreciate your coming forward tonight.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next on our agenda, we have public comment. If anyone would like to speak, we'd ask you to come to the podium. We'll allot you 3 minutes. We ask that you give your name and your address.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Heather Rinkovich, and I live here in Clawson. So, Madam Mayor and council members, so my presence here tonight is not unlike most other nights that you see me in the back. What you may not know is that my presence as of late has been one of monitoring and oversight. See, my professional background includes roles that managed many different areas of compliance and oversight. In fact, many of those areas were in federal compliance. These were things like ensuring compliance in hiring and admissions practices, non-discriminatory hiring, firing policies, ensuring equal access of all positions, programs, roles, and things of that sort to all capable and eligible candidates. So tonight, I'm here documenting and noting the handling of this very important task you have as our elected officials in selecting the right person to fill this open council person vacancy. For me, the right person to fill this vacancy should be a person that reflects the demographics of the community. For those here and at home, Clawson's median age is 41 years old, with 44% of adults holding a bachelor's degree or higher. That's just for starters. I say this so that there is an awareness in the community and in hopes that the council has done their due diligence and plans to do what is right and what is best for Clawson, our community, and not what is best at serving the current dais only. The community has made it abundantly clear how important we feel it is to have a council that represents us when we voted 2-1 to keep our expanded council last month. Having a city council that reflects its population is of the utmost importance to many of us. Even more so when we have even less of a say in this instance when it's a special appointment and not one where we, the people of the city, do not get a voice or a vote of who this council person is that is being chosen for us to represent us. So remember, your decision tonight is not only being monitored by me or by those in this room and by those at home watching, but also by those who will be voting in November. If recent elections like the mayoral election in New York, or heck, the one right here in Clawson, have not proven anything yet, not only is change coming, it's here. Gen Z are also turning out and voting in historic numbers, and they're just getting started. So finally, please, I ask that you make the best decision this evening, not just for yourselves, but for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, not seeing anyone else come forward, we will close public comment, and next we will have discussion of city council candidates and recommendation for appointment. Any thoughts? Councilmember Shepherd?
Well, I want to thank everybody for who showed up tonight, and I really appreciate your time, your thoughts, sharing your perspective, and this is going to be a difficult decision, no question about it. I think I'd like to take some time to think about that. I mean, we can talk about the candidates, but I'm not prepared to make a decision this evening. If it's something that is as council's wish to make a decision tomorrow, I'll be certainly in favor of that.
So what does the charter say, though, Michelle? We have to appoint someone or have someone sworn in within 30 days?
Yeah, they have to be appointed. If you don't within 30 days, then you would just do it at the next meeting or another special meeting.
So the intention, though, is, like, we could theoretically ask everyone to come back, or if we don't make a decision today and have to make one tomorrow, we could swear them in, like, outside of the meeting. You've done that before, right, swearing them in?
I believe it's on the agenda for tomorrow night
It
for
is.
the council to make a selection. Tonight, you can discuss and, come back with, at
Right.
that meeting tomorrow night, oath of office could be given right then, after the appointment's made. So I could be prepared to do that.
So we would have to ask everyone to come back tomorrow to be able to swear them in,
Do
because
they have to be sworn in tomorrow, or do they just have to be appointed and sworn in within a certain amount of time?
It says they have to be appointed.
Right.
Okay, so if we appoint somebody tomorrow, they have some time to get sworn in. I believe there's a time limit. We had a certain issue with that on a certain council member about 4 years ago.
I would probably suggest that the oath of office be given at the time of appointment.
Agreed.
So, I mean, I guess I was thinking that possibly the council could maybe narrow it down to, possibly 2 or something like that, so that you know that when you're starting tomorrow night's meeting, yes, the candidates will have to be here.
Okay.
Because there's no discussion until that time to decide who that's going to be. And then the appointment will be, the motion be made and appointment move forward.
So we need to sort of have a substantive conversation today so that we can narrow down to a smaller group of who will be asked to show up tomorrow, is what you're thinking.
That's her
That's kind
suggestion.
of what we thought would possibly happen. I mean, that's obvious up to you.
Yep.
On how you want to handle it, but
Nope.
that would make it a little easier for tomorrow night if you have some idea going into the meeting tomorrow night.
Okay.
Would you like me to read the section on oath?
Yes.
I don't know if it's going to provide much, but every officer elected or appointed to any city office before entering upon the duties of their office shall take and subscribe to the oath of office prescribed by the state constitution.
So we would want to have the oath take place prior to a subsequent meeting. Right.
Correct.
So that's, I know it's on the agenda tomorrow, but we want to be more complete than just a discussion tomorrow.
Discussion now.
Correct.
So, but,
Mayor, if I may, it sounds like you could have discussion today, maybe narrow it down if you'd like, and then tomorrow, I don't think the candidates have to be present. You make the appointment, and then at the next council meeting, that could be the first order of business.
Is that correct?
May I expand on one point? Is in the case of the officer's failure to do so on or before the time fixed for taking office, the officer will be deemed to have declined the office unless the time therefore is extended by city council.
okay, so
We have the power to extend the swearing-in date somewhat beyond tomorrow
Correct.
thing, okay.
And it's not uncommon, Michelle, for you to issue an oath of office outside of a meeting.
That's
You've
correct.
done it many times.
And so if the determination's made tomorrow, you could say the oath of office be given prior to the next meeting. It would just be part of the resolution.
And then we could also,
And that would be giving them
I would
permission
think
to-
someone would want it to be more formal too, just for a photo op for their families or for their own history, right? It's just something that's kind of special.
well, it's newsworthy, too.
Yes, of course it is. So,
I agree with Councilmember Shepherd. I prefer not to make the selection tonight, but I think we do need to have discussion tonight.
I don't know that I'm ready to even narrow down, I'll be honest. I have reason that I would want to support all four candidates. I think this is a really good sign for Clausen that we're very hopeful that there are people who are passionate about serving here, and they have positive attitudes. So what I loved about each one of them was they had positive things to say, and I think we could use a little bit more of that in our community. So it would be a real easy sell for all four of the people who are here this evening. I don't know how to fairly narrow it down, just like, I would want to think about it, I think.
I would agree.
I think it's an important decision, and
We'll have the discussion tomorrow then.
that would be my preference.
It is
I
on
give-
the agenda.
It is on the agenda.
Well, I gotta admit, this is gonna be a very painful process for me because I like all four.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
I don't know, it's kind of like writing an email and just letting it stew. And right now, I'm kind of like, I'd like to probably put my thoughts down and then, revisit them. And if there's anything else, have an opportunity to go back and take a look at what the video shows, just so I have an opportunity. So,
I agree. Okay, so do we need to, we don't really need to do anything. We have it on the motion, we have it on the agenda tomorrow. So I guess at this point, unless anyone has any comments, we'll just thank all of the people who came tonight again for showing an interest in Clausen and taking their time and putting the efforts into this. And we're proud of all of you, and I think we would all be very happy to sit alongside all of you, even for 5 months. But we will table this till tomorrow.
There's no tabling.
Well, okay, sorry, forgive me for using a word you don't like. We will readdress it tomorrow on the agenda as
be addressed
scheduled. Yeah. We'll pick up where we left off. May I say that?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Phew. Word police.
So I move we adjourn.
support.
Michelle?
Councilmember Anderson?
Yes.
Mayor Milan?
Yes,
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett?
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd?
Yes.
thank you. This meeting is adjourned.